Okay. So let's start our today's current affair discussion. And the first article is about Railway Ministry planning to bid out 16 stations under PPP route. So this is in addition to 1,253 railway stations that have been identified for development under the Others Station scheme. These railway stations will be upgraded to ensure improved basic facilities and accessibility for passengers. Accessibility here mainly is pointed out towards the Divyang, right? So social mobility is being ensured under Adarsh Station scheme. Now PPP, it refers to a cooperative agreement between the government organization and a private firm to execute a project or provide services to the local pollution for the long term. Hence the PPP. Now it encompasses several delivery models such as operation and maintenance, build, operate, transfer or bought, build, own, operate, transfer, boot, design, finance, build, operate, transfer, etc. So these are all the models in how, on which the PPP projects are based on, right? Several that have been missing over here is such are hybrid. We have EPC, right, which we have discussed in our earlier sessions. So this is all about PPP and its types. Benefits, so it helps in recovering the project cost as the present railway fare is highly cross subsidized. So here the cross subsidization, it refers to how the revenue from cargo and the revenue or the losses, actually the losses in revenue in passenger are equalized. So what happens is that, let's say railway is gaining rupees 10 in cargo, but it's losing around 9 rupees, in passenger, right? So instead of working towards how to minimize this loss, railway, what it does, it focuses more on the profit side, that is the cargo side, and the profit that are being earned through the cargo revenue, they try to push it to more and more levels, and through which they are able to absorb the 9 rupee loss in passengers. This is what the cross subsidization refers to. Presently, it is standing at around 98%, which basically means that around 98% loss in while managing passenger side of railways, it is compensated by the cargo revenues. Now, it also will be increasing the competition and efficiency in the modernization of railway projects. So because there are number of main stations, right? You must have observed in your own locality that we have railway, right? But with each station there comes a major main station through which all these stations are somewhat connected. And in development or modernization of railway projects, it's mostly a top-down, um, how to say, plan. So first, the main station, it absorbs all of the money or all of the budget that it gets. The leftover budget or the spillover is then given to the main branched stations, and then it goes to rural areas. So because of this, you will see that main station gets modernized. They get they get a huge budget. They will be getting new services, new bridges, and whatnots. But other stations, especially rural stations, they are in a state of apathy from many years, right? Coming off PPP, it will increase the competition with the main stations, with the division stations, and would also increase the efficiency of the modernization, because now we will be having a external parameter with which these railway projects can be compared. Then tackle the underperformance of the railway due to lack of skilled workforce and other construction equipment, right? And there are some malpractices that can also be carved out, right? One of the malpractices that how when you are served uh, thali in your train, uh, sorry, when you are traveling in train, you are served a thali, right? And they take about 150 rupees or something like that, which is something which we have not like we do not have to give. The truth is that the thali is a complimentary services being provided by IRCTC. You don't have to pay the extra 100 or 80 rupees. In fact, when you get a thali and you ask them to provide a bill, they would not be able to provide a bill because this revenue is not white, right? So there are malpractices, there's a lack of skilled workforce. So due to all these factors, there has been an underperformance of the railway. But with coming of PPP, with the involvement of private management, we may be able to achieve new heights. What are the challenges for PPP? So delay in land acquisition and multiple clearances and approvals from various regulatory bodies. This is actually a challenge for PPP projects, not specifically for railways, but for PPP projects. That once a project is cleared to be as a PPP, what happens is that they would be mostly be getting trapped in land acquisition, or there would be multiple causes of delays, which is generally due to either lack of foresight from government side or due to some behind the door practices. Then there is unviable tendering of PPP projects owing to lack of proper planning and unrealistic cost estimates. So here they are pointing out how private management can manipulate the figures. Then there would be ineffective dispute resolution mechanism. India still has not able to make up a proper effective dispute resolution mechanism for PPP projects. All the cases would go to High Court or Supreme Court. And then finally, we have lack of standard PPP practices in line with global standards, right? Here in way forward, you could mention how we have SCM, Singapore Convention mediation, or arbitration practices, right? Which could pave the way for PPP projects to see new heights in the new India at 75, right? So this was all about the PPP route in railways. Okay. Now let's move on to the second article, which is about Quality Council of India completing 25 years. So the council, which was set up in 1997 jointly by the government, ASSOCHAM or Associate Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Confederation of Indian Industry, and Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI. Remember, again, there are four partners over here: government, ASSOCHAM, CII, and FICCI. To celebrate the journey of quality and excellence that India stands for, QCI has launched the MARK campaign, Gunvatta Se Atmanirbharta, India's quality movement. Gunvatta means quality to self-reliance. So India's quality movement. Objectives of QCI: so to monitor and administer the national quality campaign to educate both suppliers and consumers on modern concepts of quality, to develop appropriate capacities at the level of governments, institutions, and enterprises for implementing and institutionalizing continuous quality improvement, to develop, establish, and operate national accreditation programs in accordance with the relevant international standards, to promote quality competitiveness of India's enterprises, especially MSMEs, through adoption of and adherence to quality management standards and quality tools. QCI does not provide any financial assistance directly to MSME. QCI also runs accreditation program through its boards: National Accreditation Board for Certification Body, NABCB, and National Accreditation Board for Education Training, NABED, etc. And chairman of QCI is appointed by the Prime Minister of India. So again, it was all about the 25 years of Quality Council of India. Again, the important points to remember are: it was set up in 1997. It does not provide any financial assistance directly to MSME, and the chairman is not appointed by president but by Prime Minister of India. Can anyone tell me when FICCI was established, or any personality associated with FICCI?
I have no idea about that.
Okay. FICCI is actually important, not very important, but yeah, it was established in 1927 on advice of Mahatma Gandhi, and it was again advice of Mahatma Gandhi, right? Not by Mahatma Gandhi, on advice of Mahatma Gandhi. And the main person behind establishing FICCI was Om Birla, late Om Birla, and Purushottam Das Thakur, right? So Purushottam Das Thakur Das, right? This was the whole name of these two personalities which were instrumental in creating FICCI. Then we have Confederation of Indian Industry. Same question. When was the year, and is there any important personality that you can remember with Confederation of Indian Industry? Okay. In short, Confederation of Indian Industry, it was actually established in 1895, right? And it saw its heights, or you could say it saw its peak when Rajiv Gandhi was prime minister. So there is a history associated with CII. It's a very big or a very significant one, which we will be discussing in upcoming days, because um, I think 125 years have been completed. No, so we will not be discussing anything specific to CI in upcoming days. But yeah, remember that it was established in 1895 and significant during Rajiv Gandhi. And then finally, ASOCHAM. Same question. Any idea? ASOCHAM is very important. There was some initiative with by ASOCHAM, in fact, in China too. Okay. So remember again, this also completed 102 years. It was, that means, established in 1920, right? And ASOCHAM is very important because unlike any other organization, it has number of committees, it has number of councils on both state, central, and international. And what they do is they sort of have mission to dialogue, kind of mission to dialogue with various organizations, right? And ASOCHAM is also important for India because through ASOCHAM, India is actually member of ICC, or International Chamber of Commerce, which is a part of World Bank, right? So this is what the importance of ASOCHAM is, or all of these organizations is, right? So this was all about QCI, ASOCHAM, CII, FICCI, and then chairman of QCI being appointed by Prime Minister of India. Cool. Now let's move on to the next article, which is about World Bank releasing Poverty and Shared Prosperity 2022 Correcting Courses Report. Now it is a biennial series, and this poverty and shared prosperity theme. Remember, poverty and shared prosperity, it is actually focused on South Asia. World Bank, whenever is releasing this particular report, it focuses on South Asia, and hence in 2022, that is after 2020, this is the second report out for 2020, because it is a biennial series. So this is about correcting courses. Recently, we are seeing how many of the countries are decreasing their estimated growth rate. This is one of the very important points that you can observe in this, right? So World Bank in this report estimates the trends in global poverty and shared prosperity. That adopted a new extreme poverty line of $2.15 per person per day, which replaces the $1.9 poverty line based on 2017 purchasing power parities. So this is very important to remember. Now your extreme poverty line is not as old as 1.9, it is 2.15 per day per person. And this is based on PPP, or purchasing power parity. Now, what are the key findings in this report? So the pandemic increased the global extreme poverty rate to an estimated 9.3% in 2020, up from 8.4% in 2019. The primary reason for such economic setbacks are severe economic downturn during COVID and recent war in Ukraine. The world is unlikely to meet a long-standing goal of ending extreme poverty by 2030. Which is the SDG regarding this? One, right? Um, in 29, yeah. Were you adding something?
No, you said that. Okay, it's SDG 1.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. SDG 1 about ending extreme poverty by 2030. So world is unlikely to meet this particular sustainable goal. In 2019-20, 10% of India's population was living under the updated poverty line. So they have updated the figures and now 10% of India's population is under extreme poverty rate. 5.6 crore Indians lived into poverty in 2020, 12% mostly comprising of UPSC aspirants, right? PSC aspirants. Now 12% of the population lived below the poverty line in rural areas, while 6% of urban areas were in poverty. There has been a decline in poverty in India since 2011, especially in rural areas. The richest people have recovered from the pandemic at a faster pace. This is further reflected in the first rise in global inequality in decades. So what are the important points again from this particular series, the correcting courses report? First, it is a biennial series that is released every 2 years, every 2 years by World Bank, focused on South Asia. Second, the new extreme poverty line is $2.15 per person per day, according to purchasing power parity. Now, this is my question is this: the previous one was 1.9, now we have 2.15. World Bank has actually increased the poverty line while saying that there have been an increase in poor people. How is it possible? At the one hand, you are saying that poverty line is increasing, while on the other hand, you are saying the poor people are increasing, which sounds dubious, right? It sounds a decoupled or a dichotomy. Can anyone explain me how is this possible?
See, poverty line means they are increasing that value or something else.
Yeah, you are going correct. You are going correct.
Okay, so if they are increasing means, of course, there will be increased number of people who are under the poverty. So what is, like, if
Kind
someone
of.
is earning $1 per day,
Hmm.
and now World Bank is increasing that what to say, standard of this poverty line to $2 means uh, many people will come under that category, right? Previously
Hmm.
there will be people who are earning $2 per day, they are not under the poverty line, but now when they increase this value, then more number of people will come under that category. So that is, I think that will be the case.
Hmm.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I got that. I'll be saying from a, different point of view,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Because there was these unprecedented circumstances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Unprecedented. Okay. Mm-hmm.
which was COVID,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
right? And to
Yeah.
combat COVID, we saw many countries releasing universal basic income schemes,
Okay.
right? That means they were flushing more money to the people
Yes.
because the cost of living also increased.
Yeah. Inflation was high.
Those money could not buy everything,
Yes. Yes. Of course.
right? So
Yeah.
these that money that they had flushed into the market is still with people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what happened is that here you could see the classic case of demand pull inflation.
Yes.
Here 1.9 to 2.15, um, is not because there has been a reduction of poor people. It is because there have been an increase in poor people due to increasing prices, and because of these increasing prices, because the people could not spend the money, we also see an increase in extreme poverty line in terms of money too,
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true.
right? So this was one observation that we can make from this particular
Yeah.
report,
Okay.
right? Then we also saw that SDG 1 has become sort of unlikely goal to be achieved,
Yeah.
right?
So what are like SDG 2, like health, education, sanitation?
Mhm.
Uh,
No, remember it like this. Uh, First of all, can you mute your mic because I think there is a reverb coming. Yeah, thank you. Oh, wow. It was actually listening my voice, so that's why. And just after I go through all those SDG, like unmute and then ask. Right. Okay. So moving first, remember you have to remove the poverty, which is obvious. Then you give them food. Then you will improve their health. Then you will give them education. After that, you will try to balance, or you will try to bring gender parity. These five are social goals. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No poor, everyone gets food, everyone is healthy, everyone is educated, and low gender parity. Okay,
okay, okay, bro.
right? Okay. Then we are moving on to other goals. So now we have achieved the social one. Let's go on to some more basic one, which are having clean water. Moving on, you will need clean energy. Remember, clean water. Then you have affordable and clean energy. Then you have decent economic growth, right? Because you have to increase the money. Because you want this decent economic growth, you ultimately have to have investment in infrastructure, or you can say industry, innovation, infrastructure. And after you have industries running well, you will need to cancel out other inequalities, which may be such not does not only pertain to gender, but there could be such as inequalities due to culture, and inequalities due to racism, inequalities due to geographical foundations, person having disabilities, right? Such inequalities. Then moving on, we have sustainable cities, because you have a model city now. At 10th SDG, now you have a model city. So now you have a sustainable city. Then promoting responsible consumption. Till now, here we have achieved most of the socio-economic goals. Now we are moving on to a much higher level, which is responsible consumption, which is not only about energy but about everything, right? Then comes climate action. After climate action, remember water, land, air. So first you will try to rectify, or you will try to purify living beings in water, then lives of people on land, and then you will try to have a better peace order, peace order, peaceful order in world. And finally, the final goal, SDG 70, is about bringing institutions to achieve all these 16 goals. This is how I remember. Uh,
That is very, how to say, mind blowing technique. Now I can remember this. Thanks for sharing this, bro.
Thank you. I mean, uh, it feels good, na, right? Because I thought that this is a very long method, whether people would I would be able to convey it right or not, but the appreciation means that yeah, I am going a little bit correct. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so yeah, we saw the SDG 1 became more and more tough. However, from Indian perspective, 10% of India's population is living under the updated poverty line. More Indians slipped into poverty, no doubt. But we are seeing a decline in poverty in India since 2011, especially in rural areas. So we are doing something right in rural areas, which would help to reduce the movement or reduce the urbanization. And then the inequality conundrum that we saw first time or more prominently in decades, which is about richest people able to recover from pandemic at much faster pace than poor. Now, what are the suggested solutions from the fiscal aspect by World Bank? Choose targeted cash transfers instead of broad subsidies. So, for example, we had this huge vaccination drive, right? Um, Instead of vaccination drive, if we would be having something else, let's for example say um, food supplies or something like that, then instead of providing the food subsidy to everyone, provide targeted cash transfers, right? Second, prioritize public spending for long-term growth. So we need capital um, investment, right, in the market by government, and then mobilize tax revenues without hurting the poor. So it's about Laffey curves. We know in Laffey curve how we need to find the optimal level of tax level at which the tax revenue of government is at maximum, right? So mobilizing tax revenues without hurting the poor basically translates to finding the new peak point or new point at which we would be having maximum tax collection. We can simply refer it to as Laffey point, right? Okay. Now let's move on to the next article, which is about government identifying PSUs with land but little business for sell off. So now government is identifying public sector companies that are sitting on land banks with little or no business that can be privatized or sold off. The government has set up a special purpose vehicle, which is called National Land Monetization Corporation (NLMC), a wholly government company which will aggregate land from all PSUs that are either being wound up or being sold. Right. So land monetization is one of the part of asset monetization. Asset monetization, it refers to as asset or capital recycling that involve the process of conversion of assets into economic value. Under this, government cedes control over its asset for a certain period, after which the assets must be returned to the government unless the lease is extended. Earlier in NMP, a roadmap for asset monetization with an estimated rupees 6 lakh crore was launched. During financial year 2022, transactions with an aggregate monetization value of about 97,000 crores in terms of accruals of private investment were completed under NMP. So benefit, it creation of employment opportunities, generation of substantial revenue, enabling high economic growth, seamlessly integrating the rural and semi-urban areas for overall public welfare. What are the year-wise target? So for previous year, it was around 88. This year, the target is around 162. Next year, it is around 180. And then finally in 2024, we have 167. So remember, the asset monetization or national monetization pipeline is a sort of initiative taken by government for 4 years, right? With total value to be raised around 6 lakh crore. Okay. Next, India abstains on Sri Lanka vote at Human Rights Council. So the resolution titled Promoting Reconciliation, Accountability and Human Rights in Sri Lanka was adopted by Council after 20 of its 47 members voted in its favor. Remember, at Human Rights Council, the resolution titled Promoting Reconciliation, Accountability and Human Rights in Sri Lanka, the recent crisis in Sri Lanka, the resolution on that was adopted by the council after 20 of its 47 members voted in its favor. A resolution called upon the government of Sri Lanka to ensure impartial investigation and prosecution of all alleged crimes relating to human rights violation and the ongoing economic crisis. While 20 countries abstained, 7 including China and Pakistan, voted against it, effectively backing the Sri Lankan government. India abstained on a resolution but urged the government in Colombo to deliver on commitments toward the Tamil minority. India observed that Sri Lanka's progress in implementing commitments on the 13th Amendment, meaningful devolution and early provincial elections remains inadequate. The 13th Amendment states that Tamil will be one of the Sri Lanka's official languages that provide councils with substantial authority will be established throughout the country. India also abstained on draft resolution at UNHRC calling for debate on the human rights situation in China's Xinjiang region. So this was all about how politically the political issues were tackled in HRC. Let's come out to the main issue, which is about UN Human Rights Council. So it's an intergovernmental body within the United Nations system, made up of 47 states responsible for the promotion and protection of all human rights around the globe. It discusses all thematic human rights issues and situations that require its attention throughout the year. First thing, the members are selected by voting, by individual voting, right, in UN. So in UNG or UNSC, there would be a meeting and individual votes would be given for these elections. Second, no party can be in the UNHRC or Human Rights Council for more than 2 terms. More than 2 terms is not possible consecutively. For consecutive purposes, 2 terms can be allowed in UNHRC, not more than that, right? So this is all about UNHRC. Okay, now let's move on to the next article, which is about WHO alerting alerts against India made cough syrups after 66 children die in Gambia. So recently India also banned these 4 cough syrups after it caused several deaths in Gambia as well as acute kidney injuries. The global health body reportedly said that it is conducting further investigation with the company and regulatory authorities in India. The company's name is Maiden Pharmaceuticals. Drug regulation in India. So Central Drugs Standard Control Organization CDSCO under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare prescribes standards for ensuring safety, efficacy and quality of drugs, cosmetic, diagnostic and devices in India. Remember the word devices, right? That despite being an electronic device, CDSCO overview it. So your smart watches or your health watches or fit bands, they are also coming under the purview of Central Drug Standard Control Organization. It also regulates the market authorization of new drugs and clinical trial standards, supervises drug imports and approves license to manufacture. CDSCO, along with state regulators, is jointly responsible for grant of license of certain specialized categories of critical drugs such as blood and blood products, vaccine, etc. And DCGI or Drug Controller General of India is the head of CDSCO. The office of DCGI also acts as an appellate authority if there is any dispute with respect to the quality of the drug. So this was all about WHO against India made cough syrups. And the final article for me. Okay. So before moving to prelim section, let's move on to the article, to the editorial of the day. So the hijab case and essential practice doctrine. So here we see that a 2-judge bench of Supreme Court of India is presently hearing arguments on the correctness of a Karnataka High Court judgment that upheld the ban on use of hijab by students in Karnataka. Right? In a crude sense, the issue came up when the notification came out that during the exams, the female students cannot wear hijab, which then propagated into a political situation, right? Here the author notes that every time an argument over religious freedom of India is made, it invariably mires itself in the code crafted doctrine of essential practice. Now, this requires judges to engage not merely in legal analysis but also in theological study, something an education in the law scarcely equips one to perform. Possible actions by the bench. So, Karnataka High Court made three primary findings. Hijab is not essential to the practice of Islam. The right to freedom of religion was not being violated. There exists no substantive right to freedom of expression or privacy inside a classroom. Moving on, the analysis was never conducted by the High Court because, in its belief, classrooms are qualified public spaces where individual rights must give way to the interest of general discipline and decorum. There's a kind of inquiry. The essential practice doctrine owes its existence to a speech made by B.R. Ambedkar in Constituent Assembly. The religious conceptions in this country are so vast that they cover every aspect of life from birth to death. I do not think it is possible to accept a position of that sort. We ought to strive hereafter to limit the definition of religion in such a manner that we shall not extend beyond beliefs and such rituals as may be connected with ceremonials which are essentially religious. It is not necessary that laws relating to tenancy or laws relating to succession should be governed by religion. In essence, the Hindu laws, when we talk about Hindu laws, there are mainly four laws, right? So here he was pointing out that how the laws relating to tenancy, laws relating to succession, the act is itself called Hindu Succession Act, right, are to be governed by the religion itself. Ambedkar was striving to distinguish the religious from the secular by arguing that the state should be allowed to intervene in matters that are connected to religion but are not intrinsically religious. It was in this vein that the Supreme Court, in the case concerning Shirur Math, held that to determine what constituted an essential aspect of religion, the court ought to look towards the religion concerned. And hence why the author says that while deciding such cases, court not only has to look at from a legal point of view, but also from a theological point of view. In a series of cases, the court has assumed something akin to an ecclesiastical power and determined whether practice which was religious in nature was also essential to that religion. One such practice is the Khanjar in Sikhism, right? The Kanga in Sikhism, which is allowed to Sikh students to be brought to the school. Court is now deciding not only when the state could lawfully interfere in the interest of social welfare and reform, but also which practices are deserving of constitutional protection in first place. What are the effects? So first, it has allowed the court to narrow the extent of safeguards available to religious customs by directly impinging on the autonomy of groups to decide for themselves. The right to ethical independence is a very important word to remember. Right to ethical independence. So here, while we are talking about hijab, but there is no doubt when we talk about sati in Hinduism or we talk to the halala practice in Islam, right, these are some of the practices related to religious custom, but are they ethical? Is there any ethical independence provided to religion practices, that they could select any practice to be essential or not, right? Second, it has also negated legislation that might otherwise enhance the cause of social justice by holding that such laws cannot under any circumstances encroach on matters integral to the practice of religion. So for example, in 1962, the court struck down a Bombay law that prohibited excommunications made by the Dai of Dawoodi Bohra community when it held that the power to excommunicate is an essential facet of faith and that any measure aimed at social welfare cannot reform a religion out of its existence. The essential practice test is not without alternatives. D.Y. Chandrachud proposed one such doctrine, a principle of anti-exclusion. Now here comes the keyword, anti-exclusion. So its application would require the court to presume that a practice asserted by a religious group is in fact essential to the proponents of its faith. Regardless of such grounding, the Constitution will not offer protection to the practice if it excludes people on grounds of caste, gender, and other discriminatory criteria. The anti-exclusion principle allows for due deference to the ability of a religion to determine its own religious tenets and doctrines. It's basically saving for impairing the dignity of human. And the freedom of religion must give way to the overarching values of liberal constitution. Until such time as the essential practices doctrine is overruled by a bench of more than 7 judges, the court is bound to apply its tenets. Right. So here again, a simple observation that until and unless there is a constitutional bench, the practices that are being held in a religion would not be overruled. This was all about the essential practice doctrine. So keywords, remember the principle of anti-exclusion, ethical independence, and then we have essential practices and the constitutional bench provision. Okay, so this was all about this particular article on essential practice doctrine. Right. So now let's move on to the Prelims section. And first of all, let's move on to places in news. So in Thailand, Bangkok. Bangkok means the capital. So political and boundaries located wholly within the tropics consist of two broad geographic areas, a larger main section in the north and a smaller peninsula extension in the south. Surrounded by Myanmar to the west, Laos to the north and east, Cambodia to the southeast, and Gulf of Thailand to the south. Thailand shares also maritime borders with India, Indonesia, and Vietnam. With India, this maritime border was further elevated to Mekong-Ganga cooperation and also BIMSTEC. Geographical feature, so the Khorat Plateau in the northeast. Remember the Khorat Plateau. It is an important plateau, has come in several PSCs. Thailand has two principal river systems, the Mekong River and Chao Phraya River. Right, Chao Phraya River, while it lands in Gulf of Thailand, your Mekong goes in Bay of Bengal. And then we have Doi Inthanon, the highest mountain in Thailand. Then Nobel Prize in Literature, so it was awarded to Annie Ernaux, a French author, for her work that sheds light on murky recesses of memory, family, and society. The prize in literature is awarded by Swedish Academy Sweden, and Rabindranath Tagore was the first Indian and first non-European to win the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1930. Fresh twist in Moon's genesis. Since the mid-1970s, astronomers have thought that the Moon could have been made by a collision between Earth and an ancient Mars-sized protoplanet called Theia. However, the previous theory also says that satellite was formed months or years after the collision and gradual solidification of molten Theia debris, which gave rise to the Moon. However, a new hypothesis based on supercomputer simulation suggests that Moon's formation might not have been a slow and gradual process, but one that instead took place within just a few hours. Moving on, we have hydrogen co-firing. So NTPC and GE Gas Power signed a MOU for feasibility to demonstrate of hydrogen co-firing blended with natural gas in gas turbines installed at Kawas Power Plant in Gujarat. Again, co-firing is a term used to describe incorporating a secondary fuel with a primary fuel. And then it will evaluate the possible modification in the gas turbine unit and auxiliaries required for blending H2 with natural gas. Thereafter, a pilot project for 5% co-firing would be launched. Here, remember, there is a project called Samad, because we are talking about thermal coal plants or TCPs. Samad is a project which is about involving biofuel remember, biomass or biofuels into these thermal coal plants. And it is also based on co-firing. Then we have International Electrotechnical Commission. So it is a not-for-profit organization developing international standards in the field of electrical and electronics based in Geneva. Basically, just remember that when it comes to electricity, or more accurately, instruments of electricity, which ranges from semiconductors to your semiconductor devices, from your wires, copper wires, right? All such things. The organizations that are developing international standards are mostly not for profit organization. There is no um, organization such as UN which is working in such area, right? And India is part of IEC, Standardization Management Board, and Market Strategy Board. Moving on, we have brickwork ratings. So SEBI has ordered the shutting down of brickwork ratings. It is a SEBI registered Indian credit rating agency, ICRA. So offers rating services on bank loan, SCD, commercial paper, fixed deposit, etc. Now, credit rating agencies are regulated by SEBI under the power derived from Securities and Exchange Board of India Credit Rating Agencies Regulation 1999. And rating industry of India mainly comprises of CRISIL, ICRA, Fitch, CARE, Onicra, and Samira. These are all Indian-based credit rating industries. Moving on, we have Daksh. So it is an RBI initiative of supervisory monitoring system. It is a web-based end-to-end workflow application that monitors compliance requirements in a more focused manner. With the objective of further improving the compliance culture in supervised entities like banks and NBFCs, etc. So it would basically allow RBI to be a boss and employees to be reporting complaints mostly related to cyber incidents such as or the problems in communication, or if there is an inspection, right? Another analysis that they could submit to RBI itself. Daksh means efficient and competent and reflects the underlying capabilities of the application. Then we have US-India Strategic Clean Energy Partnership. So this is a old partnership, but now there was a ministerial dialogue held by this platform or forum. It was launched in accordance with US-India Climate and Clean Energy Agenda 2030. There are 5 pillars that would resolve the issue of India's energy crisis. Responsible oil and gas pillar, power and energy efficiency pillar, renewable energy pillar, sustainable growth pillar, and emerging fuels and technologies. Finally, we have India-New Zealand relation. So, External Affairs Minister meets New Zealand counterpart and discussed issues such as security situation in Indo-Pacific and the consequences of Ukraine conflict. About India NJ, so due to linkages to Commonwealth groups, parliamentary democracy, and English languages, we had cordial and friendly relations with New Zealand from a long time. Both countries share common vision in the Indo-Pacific. India has been fostering multi-sectorial engagement with Quad Plus countries including New Zealand, South Korea, Vietnam, and Canada as part of its strategy. And it is an important channel to enhance India's relationship with the Pacific Islands. Finally, we have post-devolution revenue deficit grants. So Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance has released the 7th monthly installment of post-devolution revenue deficit grants to 14 states. These are provided under Article 275 of the Constitution. The grants are released to the state as per the recommendation of successive finance commissions to meet the gap in revenue accounts of the states post-devolution. The eligibility of the state to receive the grant and quantum of grant for the period from 2020-21 to 25-26 was decided by 15th Finance Commission. Right. So this was all about today's current affairs and editorial. Right. Any doubt relating to any article?
No.
Okay.
No doubts.